So this week I want to introduce us to our second assignment, which is going to focus on reading the book of Ruth. We're going to be reading the book of Ruth like it's a story. So this may be a little different from how you're used to reading some other parts of the Bible. But this is when we're going to begin looking at our third learning objective in the class, which is to demonstrate an ability to use literary analysis to understand an imaginative text. So this assignment 2 is also going to be incorporating all of the other learning outcomes. You're going to demonstrate that you understand the reading process we've been covering of inspectional and analytical reading. You'll be doing that by how you read the book of Ruth and how you read the sources you'll use in this essay. Then you're also going to demonstrate an ability to understand the writing process as an extension of the reading process. You're going to demonstrate an ability to do research and then incorporate the sources that you find into your paper. Remember, interlocutors is just a fancy word for sources. And then lastly, you're going to demonstrate an awareness and respect for culturally diverse sources. You will be reading multiple sources that will discuss the book of Ruth, and they will have differing views. So what is your prompt for assignment 2? Basically, you're going to define, describe, and explain what the central conflict of the story is in the book. And then you're going to analyze this conflict and provide examples from the book of Ruth, and you'll also then provide other sources to support what you believe is the central conflict. So I'll go over the different parts of this prompt later, and they'll make more sense as we go through the remaining weeks. So know that this paper is not due for a while. You have until November 29th, okay? This assignment is going to be worth 15% of your course grade, so quite a big chunk. And it will also be a 1,000-word essay, so it's worth a bit more than assignment 1, and it's going to be longer than assignment 1. Now, even though I'm telling you about this assignment now, I do not want you to start this essay yet. Okay, next week you're going to be reading some additional sources on Ruth, and you'll probably want to use them in your paper, so hold off on this for now. The reason I'm telling you about the assignment now is I just want you to have this in the back of your mind when you're reading the sources for this week. So you're assigned the book of Ruth to read and an article on the book of Ruth. Okay, so just keep this as the long-term focus, but you don't need to do anything about this paper just yet. All right, so to go back to what I was saying about reading the book of Ruth as literature, when I said that, I'm not meaning that the book of Ruth is fictional. I'm just meaning that the book of Ruth falls into a category of writing that we call literature. Basically, it falls into the category of writing known as like narrative or historical, or to just say it this way, it has stories in it. Okay, so think of other narrative books in the Bible like Genesis, where you have creation and the story of, Abraham sacrificing Isaac, or when you have Acts that gives the stories of, Paul's shipwrecks and being released out of jail. Okay, so some other types of literature in the Bible are poetry like Psalms, you have epistles or letters like Romans and Hebrews, and then you have prophecies like Isaiah and Revelation, and then books of wisdom. Okay, so story in literature is just kind of a genre, and we're focusing on the narrative genre, which that's the imaginative text objective for the course. Okay, when we read stories, there's something you need to be aware of, and we call it the rhetorical triangle. Okay, there's 2 types of rhetorical triangles, but this is the one I want us to focus on. This one has 3 parts to it. The text, which is the writing itself, the words on the page, the audience, who is reading the text, and then the author, the person who wrote the text. Okay, and how these 3 interact together, we would call the context. All right, so every piece of writing has these 3 parts. All right, even a text message that I send to someone has these 3 parts. So I may text someone plans for dinner tonight. The text in that text is the text. The audience is the other person who's receiving the text, and I'm the author of it. And the context around that is that we've already agreed we're going to have dinner tonight, and we're just trying to figure out the plans of where to go and when. Okay, so when you analyze literature, you need to keep these 3 things in mind. And especially when you're reading Bayless's article for this week, he's really focusing in on the audience and the text to kind of determine his meaning from the book of Ruth. All right, so you have a source in our reading this week to help you understand how to read literature, and that's our Graff and Birkenstein book, They Say, I Say. So what I want you to do is pause this video and read chapter 15, which is on how to read literature. It's called Closer Examination. And I want you to list 3 things that you learned about reading literature in the worksheet. So you would complete this section right here. So go ahead and pause the video and come back when you've finished reading that chapter. All right, so now that you've done that chapter, there's one key idea I want you to take away, and that's how to find meaning in literature. So our textbook says, there is no simple recipe for figuring out what a literary work means, but one tactic that seems to help our students is to look for the conflict or debate in the literary work itself, and then ask what the text is leading us to think about that conflict. Asking these questions, what is the conflict in the work, and which side, if any, should we favor, will help you think about and formulate a position on what the work means. All right, so notice right here they're talking about conflict. And if we go back to the prompt of the essay, that's what you're being asked to do first, is figure out what the central conflict is in the book of Ruth. Now, how do you find the conflict? All right, so these are some questions to help you, like what is the central conflict? You can think of it this way. What happens in the book? Like what is preventing the main character from getting what they want? Okay. Second question, which side, if any, does the text seem to favor? All right, does there seem to be kind of like a bias or a favorite outcome that we're looking for in regards to that main character? All right, what's your evidence? All right, this could be plot turns that happen in the story. It could be words that characters say. It could be events, things that happen. It could be symbolism. There's a lot of different things this could be. All right, what is your evidence? How might others interpret the evidence differently? So remember the picture exercise I had at the very beginning of class. All of you responded differently to those pictures. You always need to explain your evidence because someone may have a completely different interpretation from you. All right, then fourth, what's your opinion of the text? Okay, so all of these together will help you understand your literature. Now in the worksheet, I give you the option to pause the video at this point and apply these questions to the book of Ruth. So to stop, read the book of Ruth and answer those 4 questions. This is part of your journal entry 3 for this week. So this would be having you do a little bit of work ahead because the journal entry is not due until Sunday. So if you want, go ahead and pause the video and do that, and then continue on by watching the next video clip.